I'm by no means an artist, but I wanted to kind of explain how graphics work um, when we're doing computer stuff. Okay, so when we create a canvas, and we've seen that in the last video, we are basically you're basically creating a canvas of some size. Okay, and that was called by the create canvas function. So the create canvas is what actually creates the canvas for us. And the first thing is going to be that width, okay? And then the second is going to be that height. That's what we, seen firsthand. Now this is usually a value, and that is going to deal with how long it is. So if I say it's 400, it's going to be 400 pixels wide. That would be the width, okay? And if I said that it was, let's say 200 pixels high, that would be the height, okay? So this is a piece of code that we have, learned is what creates the size of the canvas, okay? Now there is actually some built-in variables that become very, very useful for us when we're trying to reference so that we can draw stuff in our screen. And that is when we want to create the canvas, we need something to reference the size, because if we're always having to say 400 for the width when I'm trying to position something, that could be problematic. If I resize my canvas, I'm on a different computer, I'm deciding to use it on my cell phone, I could end up having all kinds of issues. So we really do want to use built-in variables where we can. We want to create variables for anything that could possibly change. We should be using a variable. Okay, so because the canvas size could change, there is a built-in variable for it. That means I could reference this variable and it will hold whatever the current canvas size is. Okay, that built-in variable for the width of the canvas is, you guessed it, called width. Okay, that is the built-in variable for the very first one. So that's the built-in variable for this is width, and the one for this one is, you guessed it, height. Okay, it's not in capital at all, but that's what it is used to refer to. So the first one, 400, that's stored as the width. 200, that's stored as the height. So if I was, trying to print that width later on, it would print 400. If I created a canvas and it was 800 by 200, the width would be holding the value of 800. The height would be holding the value of 200. Okay, so this is useful. Now we need to kind of understand, though, how to use that to reference things. Okay, we are used to normal coordinate system, 0, 0 is always down here, but in graphics, 0, 0, or the origin, is always in the top left. Okay, that's where it is. All right, so everything that I draw, when I am drawing a rectangle, this rectangle, and I'm drawing it on my canvas, and let me remove some of this stuff. When I'm drawing this on my canvas, I am drawing it based off of where that origin is. Unless I change the origin, if I'm not using any built-in variables, I'm doing it off of this. So this rectangle is built from, let's say I drew it at, and I did rect, and I'm doing, let's see, that's probably like 100, and this might be 200, and I have some width and height for it. So let's say it's probably 75 and 50. Making up some values. This first one right here, this 100, that stands for, it is 100 from the 0 on the x, and it is 200 from the 0 on the y. So that is how we are navigating it, because this is our origin. 0 is on the x, which would be this line, okay? So when we're referring to this side, the left side is always referred to is x equals 0, okay? And this is a big thing to understand. The left side is x equals 0. So then what is the right side? Because if I wanted to draw this, not in terms of this origin, but I wanted to draw it, say, in terms of this right side, then I can't use just counting up from 0 because it's always going to be going from the origin. The right side, okay, is referring using the built-in variable. So right side is x equals width. Okay, this is a big thing for you guys to get. Let's turn this. Right side is x equals width. Left side is x equals 0. Okay, so now using that, let's think about the top. Okay, we know that 0 for the y also starts here. So then the top of my canvas would be referenced as top side is y equals 0. Okay, that's a big thing to understand. The bottom side is y is equal to the height of the canvas, okay? So if my canvas size is 400 by 800, then the bottom side would be 800, and this right side would be 400 because it's 400 by 800, okay? So if that was how I was referring to everything, then I can use that to try to understand where I am. I could subtract, say if I want to draw this rectangle and I wanted to draw it in relation to the right side, then I can subtract it from this, so I'm moving from this side instead of moving from this side, because the origin is always in the top left. Okay, so that means that if I wanted to clean this up, now we have some values for how we're referencing our left, right, our top, and a bottom. And we have a reference of what we're using for our origin, okay, which is the top left, okay? This is my x and my y, okay? That's what this is. Okay, so let's identify, and you guys are probably going to be using this a lot. Let's identify what it would be for the very right side. Okay, well, I did not move. If I'm trying to define this corner, I did not move down at all. I did not move towards the bottom side, which means I'm still towards the top, which means my y would still be 0. But now my x is towards this right side, which means it would be this. So if I was building it as a coordinate pair, my x is width, my y is 0, okay? That's for my corner right there. Now if I want to do this bottom one right here, okay, I did move down towards the height for the bottom side, so that means that my y should have changed, but I am still at that left side, which means my x should still be 0. So if I'm representing this one, I am x is 0. The y is the height. So that's how I'm referencing this bottom left-hand corner. Okay, now if I want to reference this bottom right-hand corner, I did move towards the right side. I'm at the right side of the canvas, which would mean that my x should be width. And I'm towards the bottom of the canvas, which means that my y should be at its max value. So the bottom corner would be represented as my width, and my height. Okay, this is how I would reference my, when I'm trying to draw stuff. I can use these built-in variables to better understand and better position my shapes. That's getting annoying. Okay, so this rectangle right here, oops, this rectangle right here, we have 100 by 200 because it's going 100 over here, 100 over here from that left side, and then it's going 200 down from here. Okay. So if I wanted to move it and I wanted it to be built from, say, the right side, all I have to do is I have to use those built-in variables for that to work. Okay, so instead of saying this, let's say that I wanted this rectangle to be built over here. Now remember, I'm using my top left, unless I change that rect mode, which we'll talk about later, but right now I'm just drawing from the top left. So that means that if I know the width of my rectangle is 75. So I want to do, I want to position it in terms of this right side. Wow, that is really annoying that it keeps moving. I want to position in terms of this right side, okay, which means that I'm going to go from width minus, and if I'm wanting to try to get some value from this edge to here, this would be my width of my rectangle, and then I'm additionally subtracting that to get all the way over to this point. Okay, so it seems like it's a lot. And we'll get used to doing this. Okay, so this is going to be written a little bit differently. If I'm wanting to move it and reference based off of the right side, then I'm going to have to use that built-in variable. That width is going to be referencing the canvas width. So then I could subtract, so let's say a value, let's say it was 50 pixels away, okay, from the right side of my rectangle. So that means that I am subtracting that 50, and I'm additionally subtracting the width of my rectangle. So you can see that this is getting a little bit confusing. This is where I want to have variables. If I change my rectangle size, my rectangle width, this would no longer work, and I would want to probably use some built-in variables for this. Okay, so now here we are using, we're going width minus 50, and then we're subtracting the width of the rectangle to get to this point right here. All right. Now we are not as far down, but we're still referencing y as 0. So we're probably closer to, on this one, we're probably closer to maybe only like 50 for my y. This is my y right here. So I'm only coming down about 50 for that point. So that's how we would reference and be able to move it around, is because we are using, instead of the normal origin of 0, 0, we are using these built-in variables to switch which side we want to reference. There is another way that we can do this where we can actually just switch the origin. We can move the origin and then we can build in terms of the origin, which we will get to. Okay, but right now we understand that this is minus 50 from the width, and that's how we are able to move it over there. And we are minus 75 from wherever that position was. And then this one to bring us down is since y is getting larger as we move down, we don't have to subtract anything. It's actually just whatever the distance away from 0, which is just 50 in this case. So we're 50. So we don't have to subtract. Now, if we were trying to reference in terms of a different position, maybe we're referencing in terms of this bottom part or this bottom part, then yes, we would have to, instead of doing from y is 0, we're doing it from the height. Now, why would we do this? The main reason that we would do this for positioning is that if I did not want this to be positioned here and I wanted to position in terms of my canvas, if my canvas was resizing and doubled in size and I wanted to keep something, over to the right-hand side, like maybe like a timer or something like that, I can do that by referencing the side that I want to use as kind of like my new origin using those built-ins. All right, so that is really how we're kind of doing graphics. Make sure you're paying attention to these parts of this video to answer the assessment questions. Good luck, have fun.